Hey everybody, Questwise here. Questwise here. I know it's been a long time since I've been able to make a video. Welcome back to the library, where all the magic happens. Today we're going to do another review. It's been a couple of weeks since I've done a video, and apologize for that, but super busy time of the year for me. During the day when I'm at my real job, I'm a bookseller, and as a retail, it can be really, really pretty crazy during this time of the year, being Christmas and New Year's. But wanted to make sure I got a video out to today, maybe even two. But I want to do a review today on a book called Down Darker Trails. This is a setting book for Call of Cthulhu, 7th edition. This came out just recently. I think it was just released to the public a couple of weeks ago. Ordered my copy. Now, let me preface this whole video by saying that I love Call of Cthulhu. I love the setting, and I've only recently gotten to it into the last couple of years. But I really love the mechanics of the game. I really like the integration of history with horror and investigation type game. I think this game does things really, really, really well. But I have never, ever been a huge fan of Westerns. At least not straight up historical Westerns. Now, that's not to say that I haven't enjoyed movies like 310 to Yuma or, other ones like that. And what's interesting about this setting, and what really took me away with this, and I watched a few reviews and read a couple of doodads about this before I purchased it. But there was something that just captured my attention with this, and I think it's the historical aspect of the game, and I'll show you what I mean when I get into this. And something that I really love about all of the Call of Cthulhu products, especially the 7th edition, this latest edition as well too. But I was really drawn to this, and so I wanted to get a copy of it, and the cover art. The cool thing about this game, let me just say this, let me back up a little bit. The cool thing about this game is that you can play it strictly historically, or straight up Call of Cthulhu-esque, where you're playing just normal people in a very historical type setting, meaning that the game's going to be very deadly. But you can also play it in the pulp style, so you could use the Pulp Cthulhu expansion to play this as well, to get a little bit more of the Wild West, think, Young Guns or John Wayne, kind of shoot 'em up, knock 'em down, kind of Westerns. So you can do both of those with that. And I feel that that's kind of the angle they were going for with this cover. It seems very pulpy to me. You have these glowing rocks, this strange zombie creature in the background, this lone gunman here, this, woman here with a rifle and stuff. So I get a very pulpy feel from this, but inside, it's much different book, and let me just show you what I mean. So Call of Cthulhu, it's an official Chaosium product. This is their newest sort of expansion for the game, a sort of setting book for the game. As with all their books, the inside is beautifully done. I mean, the artwork in this are phenomenal, and they use a lot of sort of historical photographs and stuff as well too, which is really nice. So right off the bat, you jump right into Chapter 1, creating investigators and characters for an Old West setting. And it's done, this is the other thing I really like about this product as well too. As long as you own the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition rule book, you don't need any other book. You could just buy this and that and run a game. With every product that they've come out with, whether it be the Investigator's Guide or the Pulp Cthulhu so far, each one of them has a full section on creating characters for that particular thing. So there's no buying 4 or 5 books to jump back and forth. All the material you need is right inside here, which I really, really enjoy. I think that's a great choice on their part. Let's see. So again, just straight up creating characters. It's if you played Call of Cthulhu before, you're going to be very familiar with all of this stuff. Significant people, ideologies, that kind of stuff. This has all been very familiar in all the other versions of Call of Cthulhu. Assets, cash, Again, the quick reference sheet for half and fifth values, which I think is genius on their part as well too. It's an amazing chart to have, because there's a little bit of math involved when you're creating a character, and they take all of that work out for you here. So you don't ever get those people or players who are a little wary of their math skills and a little worried about looking embarrassed at the table. All the work has been done for you right here in this table, which is really, really phenomenal. I also have to go back and say, too, that I have never come across a role-playing game where it is so easy to make characters and so enjoyable. The process that they've done and the way that they've laid out these books in character creation is by far the best character creation process I've ever seen in a tabletop role-playing game supplement or product before, ever, hands down. So then they add in some Old West occupations. Again, some great historical photographs. These things are really, it's great stuff. It really adds to the theme of the book, and really gives you a nice feeling of the historicalness of this. There's also some great artwork. Again, this kind of fits in between the pulpy and in the historical. But you're going to have your, typical stuff: gunfighter, lawman, journalist, hobo drifter, lawyer, judge, man or woman of God, sorts of great stuff. Some more photographs. But after we get past that, we go into the skills section. There's the quick fire character creation thing. And then we come to equipment and weapons. I thought this was kind of an interesting thing, this little ad that they threw in here for the Cooper Wells Company. And I'm only kind of excited about this because it's from St. Joseph, Michigan, and I live in Michigan, so I thought that was kind of a cool thing to have there. But what I really like about the equipment section is the section on horses, actually. Let me find it. Yeah, here it is. So, in the Old West, horses were a huge form of transportation. They're going to be hugely important in any sort of Old West game that you're going to play. Unlike other games where they just give you stats for a horse, what's interesting about this is that they give you average stats for a horse, but they also give you the equations that you'll need to roll if you want to create your own unique horse, your own unique sort of pack, whether it be a mule or cattle or a horse. But it makes it very unique, and it makes it its own sort of little character. They also have over here for horses, they have this little chart that you can roll on. It's just a D6 chart, and it gives each particular animal a sort of little quirk or a little bit of a bonus. So that makes each animal very, very unique. And I think that's really interesting because historically, the horse was a very, very important part of the Civil War period, of the expansion period, of the Old West period, and a lot of people became very attached to their animals, and they became sort of like another sort of best friend to some of these cowboys and lawmen and whatnot. So they've given you this little chart, and it actually kind of adds a little bit of a perk or a little bit of bonus to your individual horse that makes it feel very unique and very awesome. So I thought that was a very, very awesome thing to add in there. Very unique, and I've never seen that before in a game before. Weapons that go into all the sorts of different pistols and rifles and anything that's sort of the time period. We're talking like late 18, like post-Civil War and the expansion of the West. So trains are going to be a big thing on this as well too. There's some optional rules, basically like quick draw, fanning the pistol, which is what this woman is doing right here. If you don't know what fanning is, basically holding the pistol, holding the trigger down on the pistol, and using your other hand to rapidly fire the gun as well. Dual wielding, so you can make, if you want to go the pulp route, you can definitely make any kind of master gunman, hitman, that kind of type thing, gunslinger type of a character. It goes into different types of vehicles and stuff, stagecoaches, horses, that kind of stuff. And then it goes into a little section on insanity and treatment for insanity during the Old West period, which is interesting because it's going to be vastly different than it is, say, in the 1920s or 1930s. So it goes into institutions and how they work and what types of treatments there were available. And I think that's a great addition as well, too. And then we go into my favorite part of the book. every Call of Cthulhu product so far that I've read, and again, like I said, I've only started in the last couple of years, and that's just with 7th edition. But I enjoy reading these. I've learned, and now I have a degree in history, but I really enjoy reading these because it sort of gives you this historical background of the setting that they're trying to capture. So in the core rulebook, you get a whole section in the Investigator's Guide, a whole section on the 1920s. In this one, you get a whole section on just the historical West, at the end of the Civil War, all the way through, and it gives you a little bit of what's going on in Europe, what's going on in the rest of the world, and with a main focus on sort of the Old West period or section of the United States. This is phenomenal. If you have any interest in history, this is a great, great thing, and it really, really helps to capture the period. And if you don't know anything about the time period, this is a great read because it will give you those things, those details and those historical facts that you can use to weave into your game as well too. And this is by far my favorite part of any Call of Cthulhu product, is the historical section and some of the great stuff. What also is really great in here too, and I'll get to that in a minute, is that they give you stats for some of these historical figures. Some amazing maps in here as well too. This is the Spanish Conquest map of the 1500s to the 1800s. Then we go into a section on the Civil War. And here's the Civil War battles map, and it gives all the major battles that happened during the Civil War. And it kind of goes on from there. Buffalo hunting, cattle drives, immigrants, racism. There's a timeline of Western history. And then we get into the actual Old West type of setting. Talks about railroads and trains. Talks about soldiers' life. Lots of great stuff. Some more awesome artwork. Full 2-page spreads of some awesome historical artwork. And then we get some things you would expect to see in an Old West type setting. You got, a little bit on Dodge City, Kansas, the Mississippi River, Lincoln County War, and again, more history that you could ever want. A whole section on the American Indians and Native Americans of the period, different tribes, what they were doing, who they were allied with, who they were enemies of. And here we have the legendary Westerners, and I love this part. So we got everything from, Ambrose Bierce to, who else? We got Billy the Kid, we've got Sitting Bull, and they have stats for Billy the Kid. If you've ever wanted to know how good of a gunslinger Billy the Kid was, here it is right here. A really, really cool thing. He has a 65% in brawl. He has a 70% in a 45 caliber revolver. 65% dodge. I mean, so this is kind of cool. This is cool to have. They've fully fleshed out a lot of these sort of NPCs so you can use them in your game. If you ever want to go toe-to-toe with Billy the Kid and be a lawman trying to hunt him down in this type of setting, it's all right here. And this is what I love about this game. Being a history fan, an armchair historian, I really think that this is going to add a lot of flavor to your games. When you can add in historical NPCs that your characters can interact with, I think it's going to add a lot of validity to your game and make it a lot more fun, as well as throwing in some cool Cthulhu stuff, and I'll show you those in a little bit. So you got Sitting Bull, you got Wild Bill Hickok, and Samuel Clemens, a.k.a. Mark Twain. I've decided that when I run a campaign of this, Mark Twain, or Samuel Clemens, is going to be a sort of main NPC in my setting, and he's going to be a reoccurring character for the NPC for the characters to interact with, just because I think he's really cool, and I think it would be really fun for my characters to use him as sort of a NPC that they can rely on and go back to and have as an informant, that kind of thing. So lots and lots of that. We've got the Earp brothers, we've got Custer. Some of these don't have stats. So for instance, like Mark Twain doesn't have stats, but, how often are you going to go toe-to-toe with a gunfight with Samuel Clemens? Probably never. But they've got all the Earps, Virgil Earp, Wyatt Earp. They got stats for all of them. Stagecoach Mary. We got Wild Bill Hickok. I mean, there's all, Doc Holliday. Great stuff. And so we go through all of that. Tons and tons of these, which is really, really phenomenal. One of my favorites, General Sherman. Really good stuff. Again, all historical photos. Here's some other sample non-player characters. So just general types of people: bartenders, doctors, drifters, that kind of stuff. So just generic ones in there as well too. More great artwork. And then we go into more character type stuff. Then we get to the supernatural part. So here comes the Cthulhu part of the Cthulhu Down Darker Trails section. We see some old favorites. We got flying polyps, the Ligors. There's some stuff that you've seen before, but with a twist. Here's Nyarlathotep, but with a twist as to how they would fit into an Old West setting, or at least that time period. Even in Egypt during the 1800s, early 1900s. There's the Migo, and then there's some very traditional creatures that fit into a very Old West setting. So, for instance, here's the Wendigo, which is very North American-based type of a creature that they can interact with as well, too. So there's some stuff that's very sort of specific to the setting itself, as well as some stuff that we've seen in lots of other products as well that are just general Call of Cthulhu creatures. Mythos books. This is an interesting section on Mythos books during that time period. What you might be able to find, what the characters might be able to interact with, what would be available at that time period, and what they might be able to stumble upon. Because the main focus of this is in the sort of American West is the kind of default setting for this. And so the Mythos books that they list in here would be those kind of things that you might stumble upon in the United States at that time period. A little bit of fiction, and then we've got some. This is a list of the books you might find and stuff as well. Then we go into folk magic or shamanic magic, which is interesting. This is sort of the Native American magic that you would find being used in the Old West period of the Americas at that time. Lots of new spells. Baneful Dust of the Spider Woman. Always find some very unique spells in Call of Cthulhu, and very, very flavorful types of spells as well too. Got this very kind of cartoony, pulpy kind of artwork going on in the back here. Again, it all fits very, very well. Flows very, very well. Cults and secret societies. And then we got this weird... This is the only section of this that I was a little... it would probably work out well if you're going to do more of a pulpy setting, but I was a little bit stranged out by this. This is the sort of idea that there'd be these lost worlds in the middle of, South America and North America at the time. So you're going to run into things like dinosaurs and strange folk people living, in these lost worlds, these little pockets of lost civilizations and stuff, of like El Dorado and that kind of stuff. Would work really well, I think, for a pulpy type setting. I thought it was a little weird. They give a whole couple pages on different dinosaurs. Maybe. I probably wouldn't use them in my game because I want to go a little bit more on the historical edge, a little bit more, to the more actual historical edge, with adding in a few little more of the folk tale mythologies. So probably won't use a lot of dinosaurs, but if you wanted to do a pulp type setting, this is phenomenal. It'd be great for that as well too. And then there's a whole section on designing adventures in that time period, which is really awesome, really well done. And then there's an adventure at the back here. Actually, there's two adventures in the back here to get you started in some great maps too as well. This one's kind of interesting. This is about the Owens brothers, and they're miners, and they've dug a little too deep into the mine, and have uncovered some stuff that probably should be left hidden. Scanlan's Daughter is the second adventure in there as well too, and then we've got bibliography of stuff that you can read, and some other great stuff. Two new character sheets. There's the traditional Old West one that would be just for more historical type things, and then they give you a pulp version as well too. So that's Down Darker Trails, a Call of Cthulhu setting expansion for the 7th edition role-playing game. If you've liked it, shoot me some comments down below. I'd love to talk with you about this, and I can't wait to actually get this to a table and run some people through it and see what they think about it as well too. I'm super excited about this. Like I said, I'm never been a huge fan of Westerns, but I've always been sort of intrigued by that time period. And I think that Chaosium has hit it out of the park again. Great stuff. So That's it for today. Until next time, I'm Questwise, and we're out.